if you need some help in the area of finance. I know I need some help. Sister Joyce Hayward, CPA, owner and executive officer of Fusion for Business LLC. She's your external CFO, providing finance, business, and accounting services. She specializes in profit maximization. Let's welcome her today as she speaks to us about the financial journey.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And happy International Women's Day. How exciting it is to be here, and it's been awesome so far. I want to give hand claps to all those who have gone before, because it has been truly a good day and lots of valuable information. So again, thank you for having me. Thank you for the moments. I know time is valuable, and we're talking about finances and money, and time is something you can't get back. So thank you, all of those who are on Zoom, and those who are here in the room. I don't know if we're streaming on Facebook or whatever, but I want to start by asking everybody a question. And if I could see the chat really quickly, because I turned off the chat on here. For any of you who have ever had more months than money, can you please put a 1 in the chat? Or if you don't mind, you can just raise a little hand. If you don't mind raising your hand, that's okay. And if that happened in the last 12 months because of the pandemic, you can put a 2 in the chat or put a 2 up. And you know, some of you all may want a private message. I know people are looking at the screen, but yeah, there's some ones coming in. Yeah, it's not just me, it's not just, you know. You all, thank you very much. You all were sleeping behind the camera. So thank you that you're out there. Now, some of you may not need this conversation. You may have that, it might be that you don't need to really work, you work for fun. If that's you, you can put a 5 up, or 5 in the chat. You might just work because, you know, you don't really have to. You're just working because it's a fun thing to do. It's your hobby. But if you have ever been a 1 or a 2, and thank you for the comments in the chat, I think we can all use help with our finances. We're all on a financial journey together. It is somewhere that all of us can go. Even if we are at the 5, in the high 5, we can get better. So quite often, and thank you, Minister, because she gave the statistics, that as women, we are the ones who are quite often leading our households. We're the ones raising the children. Sometimes we're raising children and parents, a sandwich generation, as they say. Sometimes we do well with our finances, and sometimes we don't. But today, I want to make sure that we leave challenged, choose to challenge, with a little more knowledge about being financially empowered and how we look at and how we handle our money and our finances. And thank you for the introduction. I am Joyce Chesley Hayward, CPA. I started in public accounting and then went into banking, and then I started a business in the States. And for 10 years, I worked with small businesses, and most of them people of color who became clients because I worked in a bank, and they came to me with shoeboxes, want me to present a financial package to the loan committee with a shoebox. And I could not turn them away, like my counterparts of different colors, different, often men, white men, and said, we don't deal with that. But I had to. I felt like that was my calling. So at night, I was up helping people get their stuff together so I could present it to the loan committee. And that became that entrepreneurial, that helping other people on the journey. And so that's one of the things that we always have to think about. How can we help someone else on the journey? And that's part of where we have to get to, financial, economic freedom. And I found that through the years, after I had a business for 10 years, I met a wonderful Bermudian man, you all don't know, Reverend Gilbert, that got married, and now I live in paradise, praise the Lord. I rub it into my family all the time. I just have to say, blue water, I have to water every day. It's a hurricane, it's pretty, it's not snow, but I've learned from every up and down that it's about how we can help somebody else, how we can pull somebody else up. And after working in government, and praise the Lord, I had an opportunity to be the accountant general, and I worked in international business, that entrepreneurial bug kept biting me. And I will say that there's nothing more important than knowing that you're helping somebody. And so part of my journey, as I said, challenges, I won't go through all of them. I'm actually gonna be writing a book, so you can get some of the stories in the book. But some of the challenges I found in working in anything, and in government, that not everybody's gonna see things the way you see them. And not everybody's gonna be for you. And not everybody's gonna understand you or get you. But if you are working in integrity, if you're working, for me, with what God tells me to do, if you're working in a way that says, this is what I need to do to help people, if God is before you, who can be against you? Nobody. And that's the success that I found, that God is always there with you. And the success is that you can help other people in whatever realm you're in. And one of the huge successes I enjoyed in government was helping young people, trainees, helping them to see how we should do what we do, and that women and young women can be and do anything you want to. They just have to work hard. It's not a lot of people say government is lazy. You hear all that stuff as has been mentioned. It is not true. I know it's not true, and I tell people when I'm working in the public sector, private sector, you don't know if you had not been there. If you've not walked in the shoes of a government employee, then don't talk about it. Yeah, there are things that we can improve, but there are things that are constantly getting better, and women are leading that. I would just have to. As I said, some of those things that you talked about, I thought it was men that signed those things. Just saying. But I have found through all the experiences that the mosaic that makes up my life is the journey of helping people. And so whether it's something good that's happened, I don't look at anything as bad. It's part of the learning experience. Everything that happens shows us either who we want to be or who we don't want to be, how we want to be or what we don't want to be. So one of the things I want to talk about today is that journey towards financial freedom. And it is possible, it is doable, it can be a challenge, but that's what we're talking about today, choosing to challenge. And the more I work with businesses and business owners, the more I see that this is really what a lot of us have to work with. If you have held up a 1 or 2 ever in your life, if you're even at that 5, we can move towards financial freedom. And they say there's 7 steps to financial freedom, and that 7 is a complete number, as they say. So as I go through these 7 steps, I want you to think about where you are in the journey and where you want to be. If you're not where you would like to be, how do you challenge yourself to get there? And what are you going to choose to challenge yourself with, what time frame to get there? So the first thing in the journey is dependence, financial dependence. That's where you're unhappy probably with your state of things and your financial position. You're dependent on others. You're financially dependent on someone else to survive. The second rung, or the second step in the journey, is being solvent. And that's surviving. And some people say that's a job just over broke, J-O-B. But your job doesn't have to be that. But that's where you have a little bit more coming in than is going out. And you're just above break even, as they say. Then the third step is being stable, where you have more coming in than going out, and you're able to save a little bit. And you may still have some debt, but you're able to pay your bills. And you may even have started an emergency fund, where you're beginning to save money and put money aside in case of an emergency, or they say a rainy day. And then the fourth step is security. And that's having an emergency fund. And people used to say an emergency fund was 3 months of your bills or 3 months of your salary, whichever is higher. With the pandemic, people are saying it's 12 months. An emergency fund really may need to be 12 months, because you never know what's going to happen. And this pandemic is going on for 12 months. People in other parts of the world, praise the Lord, I'm here in Bermuda, people in the other parts of the world are still suffering. If they didn't have 12 months savings, they've been in trouble. But this security step, this fourth step, is where you can begin to invest, where you can look at stocks, bonds, mutual funds, business, real estate. And we want to try to at least get to this step, step 4. There's a quote by Claire Ruth Luce, who's an author and a former U.S. Congresswoman, that says, "A woman's best protection is having a little bit of money of her own." I don't know how many of your grandmamas said, always have your own money, baby. Whenever you go out, have your own money. Yes. And even, I'm a minister and all of that as well. The other hat I wear, and I counsel men and women and husbands and wives, and I tell them, you should join your finances together, and you're supposed to be equally yoked. You should trust your spouse. If you trust them, just none of the ministers are listening right now, right? God bless the woman who has her own. You have your joint, but you need to take care of yourself. Yeah. Always take care of yourself. Know what's going on in your finances in your home. Don't just leave it to somebody else to do. Take responsibility for yourself and your family. The fifth step is independence, and that's that high five we were talking about, where your investments take care of your expenses. And this is where you don't have to work for your income. That's those people that just work for fun. Yeah. I'm gonna get there one day. I'm on the journey too. I'm working to get there. So your income that's coming in from your investments covers your needs. And you have solid investments, and they may be paying you some dividends. Now the sixth step is freedom. And that's where you can afford the basics. Your investments cover not just your needs, but your luxuries and the comforts in life, those vacations and the things you want to do. And you can do what you want, how you want. You can stop working and do your hobby and let that pay for you if you want. You can travel, take risks, take opportunities, because your investments are there, set. That's freedom. The seventh step is abundance. That's where your investments provide so much that you're really looking at what your children are going to do with it, what your children's children are going to do with it, your children's children's children. You want to make sure it's all set up so they don't squander it later, because you got what you need. You're looking at your inheritance, your legacy. You're building wealth, and you want to make sure that they are going to take care of those investments so they can live well. But I will say with all of this, that you have to think of what's really important: family, friends, love, and your health. Because without those things, none of that really matters. So along the financial journey, we can't forget in any of these 7 stages the people that we care about and that care about us, and our health. Because if we're not taking care of our health, the money doesn't mean anything. So a couple of things I want everyone to think about, especially if you've been that 1 or that 2, that in order to help you get to these levels, first thing you need to think about is paying off your debt. Trying to be debt free. When your debt is paid in full, you don't have to think about every month that more monthly money, and I gotta pay this person, and that interest that you're paying out that's just going to put money in somebody else's pockets. I will say to you, if you have credit card balances, try to pay them off. I have to admit, I'm a shoeaholic. I'm Joyce and I'm a shoeaholic. I still deal with being a shoeaholic. DSW was my drug of choice. I don't know how many of you know Discount Shoe Warehouse. Put a 1 in the chat if you know what DSW is. Pass by there. That was my weakness. If there was anyone in the chat? Oh, I'm by myself, okay. But if you have any kind of thing that you love to do, sometimes we don't make good choices. I would buy shoes and then figure out the outfit. Most people would have an outfit and have to buy a shoe, not me. I see the cute shoe that's in my size, that's mine. Even if I find the outfit later. Even if I had to put it on a credit card, and I used to believe in having a lot of pair of shoes. I buy 10 pairs of $20 shoes because that's what I like to do. But it doesn't make sense if thank you for the ones. It doesn't make sense if those $20 pair of shoes end up costing you $40, $50 because you put it on a credit card at 18, 19, 20% interest. So those are the things that we have to think about when we are making choices and making decisions. I got to the point before I was here that I had so many credit cards, I was drowning in credit card debt. But I made a decision one day. I said, this can't continue. And I started paying each credit card down bit by bit till I got all the credit cards. I couldn't even count how many I had. I had until I covered all the credit cards, paid them off, and I cut them up and said, okay, I'll keep 2. And now, I still am a shoeaholic, but I decided I am not I don't need them. COVID has taught many of us, we don't need some of the things we used to have. We really don't. If we have, I'm ashamed to say how many boxes of shoes I shipped here when I moved here. And still have some of them because they still look cute. But if I bring a pair of shoes in now, another pair's gotta go. It's, we have to change our mindset, choose to challenge. So we have to think of things like that, cutting down the credit cards. We have to think of saving for an emergency fund. As I mentioned, 3 months at least in the bank without an ATM card attached to that account. It's an emergency fund if it's sitting there and you're not touching it. And if you can get it to 12 months, even better. In order to get to these places to save, and there's some sheets that can be emailed to you if you're interested. You can let us know. There's ways to save. There's lots of challenges. There's challenges online. There's ways to save $1,000 in 30 days, $5 a week. Add to it, $5 this week, $10 next week, $15 next week. Challenge yourself as to how you can save, so that you can put aside an emergency fund, so that you can put aside some savings, so you can eventually afford to invest. I'll never forget when I was working in government, one of my colleagues at the beginning of the year, she and some friends said, we're not gonna buy anything this year. Now this is before COVID, when you didn't need to buy anything anyway, stores were closed. 10 years ago or so, she said, we're not buying anything new. No clothes, no shoes, nothing. I was like, what? No shoes? A year? No shoes? But they did that, and it was amazing. Because usually they went on a shopping trip. Usually they bought little things here and there, nothing. By the end of the year, they all had a nice lump sum to do what they needed to do with. Invest, use it for their Christmas fund. Whatever you do, think about paying yourself first. The other thing I'll mention is different streams of income, or multiple streams of income. As has been mentioned, last year, more women-owned businesses started than ever before. And 64% of the women-owned businesses starting in the U.S. were started by women of color. And they're doing well. So you may not say right now that, oh, I want to have a business, but all of us have what I call tags. My coach says tags: talents, abilities, gifts, and skills, TAGS. You have something that God has given that you can use to generate additional income. You might bake, you might be a good writer, a blogger, a podcaster. There's something you may want to consider for extra income, because you may not want to keep all your eggs in one basket. So I don't know how many of us have Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. You can put one in the chat, put your hand up. If you have some kind of social media, I'm sure you've put on there about living your best life, right? Most of us put about living our best life on our social media. I want us to really be true about that best life. Because a lot of times, thank you for the ones, a lot of times we put that best life on there, but that's the facade. We're not always in that best life, and that's true. We're not always great every day, but when we want to live our best life, if we're financially stable, if we challenge ourselves to be financially secure, we can think about living our best life. And I'm going to leave you with best, B-E-S-T. B, believe in yourself. Whether you think you can or think you can't, you'll get that. That's by Henry Ford. And Oscar Wilde says, be yourself because everyone else is taken. So believe in yourself, love yourself. E, educate and empower yourself. Being financially literate is the most powerful thing a woman can do. And that's a quote by a London-based author, Otiga Uwaba. I have to try to say her name properly. But you'll find that if you spend time reading and investing in yourself, you will get so much further ahead. Persons who are millionaires, who are wealthy, don't spend time watching TV. They read books. I'm just saying. The S is stick to it. Stay with it. It's not always easy, but stick with it. Believe in yourself and stand up for yourself. Keep on keeping on. And the T is time. It takes time. Give yourself time. But also, T is for tribe. Surround yourself with other women who are not spending their money buying red bottom shoes when they ain't got no money in their bank account. And I said ain't. And buying purses when the purse costs more than when the money inside. I'm just saying, some people have the purse that I have seen that. I don't want no red bottom shoes. I wanna have the money in my bank account. But they say if it's an asset, if you're sitting on it, it's not helping you to, you know.
One.
So that's right, but thank you for the ones. So remember, believe in yourself, educate and empower yourself, stick to it, and make sure you give yourself time and have a tribe of women who are like-minded, who can support you. So I will recommend a challenge, a money challenge for yourself. I have a colleague that has a website called Affirm and Pursue Academy, and we have this as a free resource. There are 20 ways that are essential to saving money even during a pandemic. And for those who are interested in business or going into business, there's a group of us, of 5 Black women who are going to be talking about the seeds of finances online on April 24th. So email me info@fusion4business.com and I'll let you know about the summit where we're going to be talking about women in business, Black women in business, and women's finances. So I ask you, choose to challenge yourself financially to move up that economic ladder to financial freedom. Thank you again for listening.
Thank you, sister. Does anyone have any questions before we move on? I think you covered it all. We have a lot to do, don't we?
Yes, we do.
So if you would partake in one of the arrangements.
Thank you
so
so much.
for
Beautiful.
your wise words.
I will say that there is a possibility that the handouts you gave us can get emailed to the participants.
Awesome.
So they can have the challenge and the 20 days.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you. Great, thank you so much for